So
Yeah.
so let's talk about Bitcoin. So just before we went live, I think we touched a little bit on this where I had my concerns about the Bitcoin network,
Yeah.
because now it's no longer profitable to mine Bitcoin, right?
Sure.
I think based on calculation, if you're using the top of the tier machines, you're probably losing like 10 to $15 a day just on electricity.
Mm.
And we haven't accounted for the machine itself, because the machine is like 10 20,000 as well. So um and and for those of you that are watching, why these miners are important, because they are the ones that create the blocks, they are the one that approves the transactions, and by
Mm.
doing so, these miners do get a reward in Bitcoin, and they have to solve puzzles to actually approve the blocks on the blockchain network. So what happens here is that, let's say if Bitcoin continues falling, one of my fear is that miners will just start turning off their machines, because I'm losing $10 a day. It's $300 a month. Unless I have a lot of cash to splash, then that's a whole different story, right? But if you are just a normal man on the street with a couple of miners, I think that will be quite detrimental. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think we will come to a stage where we have like lesser miners approving networks, approving transactions, and then when that happens, it might take even longer time for our transactions to go through, because right now Bitcoin network is like what, 20 30 minutes for a transaction,
Yeah.
and we have so much computing power, right? And when these miners start turning off their machines, do you think we'll fall into a situation where transaction can take days? Or do you think gas fee will go really high? Like my bet is that gas fees will go really high. Uh,
Yeah.
I think because there was an update on the network where you can just tip your miner, right? The more gas fee you pay, the faster it goes through, right?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you do you think it's gonna be a situation where we go back to the traditional finance where we have to remit money and then we pay a fee? It's gonna be cheaper that way than transacting Bitcoin.
Well, they definitely, I would imagine there's got to be some other reward mechanism. If they want to continue mining, they got to pay for the cost, as you said. It just doesn't make sense. And I think I had a bunch of friends mining back in the days, and they stopped after the last halving because it just doesn't make sense, right? It's just too much effort. And I think well, the other side of things would be really interesting because with the merge happening on Ethereum, right, and going to proof of stake, and the noise it's making to the environmentalists out there on all this power surge is really interesting how all this is going to turn out, right? Because there's a lot of competing factors of what could push Bitcoin a different direction, right? But for sure, I think more miners in the next halving, they'll exit, more will exit, and unless something else is there to incentivize, and then like what you said, paying fees, it sounds like a very likely outcome, right? So and it may kind of get pretty ugly because the miners can kind of control have the
Right,
control,
right, right,
and then maybe it will change the market a little bit. So the miners are willing to still do it if they're incentivized enough.
right.
But then that's gonna be a weird setup, right? Because then how are you gonna compete? Like miners are gonna compete against each other, right?
Right.
On cost, which it's gonna get ugly, right? Or like you're kind of like the wealthier people are going to be able to push things through, and there'll be a lot of brokers. So there'll be brokers and mini brokers, kind of like how payment systems work
Yep,
today, right?
yep, 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 yep.
It feels like that's what would happen, right? So
Right. Roshan, what do you think? Do you think fees will go sky high again? Like what Arthur mentioned, like brokers after brokers, like there are so many middlemen now, right? Everyone
Yeah,
taking a little bit from that, and then so
yeah, I think definitely because like Arthur said, it is going to be so many people leaving the mining space because of not of how unprofitable it is going to be for them. Because yes, I mean many people do believe in Bitcoin, so some people tend to just mine whole. They don't mind taking up costs now, maybe for Bitcoin to go up. But there are also people living day to day, and they don't want to wait few years before they actually take the profit. So then they need something that pays them every day, which they might just actually go and mine something like Litecoin, something like Ethereum, where it may be more profitable for them to do that than to mine Bitcoin.
mhm.
But at the end of the day, it would be a balance because then when more people leave, then transaction fee goes sky high. Then the people who stay would actually earn much more, so they would continue mining. But that would be the balance, the equilibrium that will come sooner or later when the amount of people leave, the the fees go sky high, and then at least the people who are actually staying are people who are earning from the fees, which is enough for them to stay. So
Right.
then it's just at a point where there's this many people of miners, this much of fees that we have to pay, and you just got to get accustomed to the high fees and longer transaction times that might just, like you said, take days. So yeah.
Right. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
like Ethereum all over, right? $80,
All-
$80 of gas. Like, oh, wait a second, just to mint, I gotta pay $80 when the NFT is less than the gas fees. Like, oh,
And the worst part is when it fails and you still pay fees.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and you get stuck, you have to pay fees again to unclog it. So you end up paying like 3 fees, like to just get a mint, you might have to do it 3 times, right?
Yeah. NFT might just be $5. So.